Every BBC period drama in this video is 6 episodes or less. Some of them won Emmys, some were canceled too early, and one is about King George's secret son you never knew he had. Which one will break your heart and which one is secretly better than Downton Abbey? Let's find out. Sarah Burton's fiancé died in the Great War. Years later, she takes a job as headmistress at a girls' school back in Yorkshire, thinking she's returning home. But the second she arrives, the local politicians start fighting her on everything. Andrew Davies adapted this from a Winifred Holtby novel, and if you've seen his other work, you know he doesn't do simple stories. This is 1930s Yorkshire, and everyone's getting crushed by poverty and sickness. Anna Maxwell Martin plays Sarah. She was incredible in 2005 Bleak House, and David Morrissey plays this landowner who's haunted by something we slowly learn about. The book is huge, and the BBC crammed it into 3 episodes. You can feel them rushing at the end trying to wrap everything up. But thankfully, the characters still felt like real people. A lot of adaptations turned everyone into types, but this one kept them complicated enough that you believed in them. The production looks beautiful. They shot it on location in Yorkshire, and everything feels right for the 1930s. But I need to warn you, this show is not a comfort watch. There's technically a happy ending for some characters, but you spend most of the time watching people suffer. Most people don't know King George V and Queen Mary had a youngest son named John who died when he was 13. He had epilepsy and what we'd probably call autism today, and the royal family basically hid him from the public his entire life. The BBC made this 2-part drama about him in 2003. What's interesting is they could have made the royal family look like monsters for hiding a disabled kid, but they didn't go that route. Instead, they showed how much it destroyed them emotionally, especially his mother. You're watching Queen Mary trying to be this stoic royal figure while her son is struggling and she doesn't know how to help him. And all of this is happening during World War I, so you've got this family dealing with their son while the entire country is at war. Miranda Richardson plays Queen Mary, and she's remarkable at showing all this pain behind this completely controlled exterior. No wonder it won 3 Emmys. Jack Whitehall plays a student at Oxford in the 1920s named Paul Pennyfeather. He's completely harmless, just minding his own business. Then the Bollinger Club, which is basically rich kids being assholes, plays a prank on him, and Paul gets expelled for indecent exposure even though he didn't do anything. This is based on an Evelyn Waugh novel from 1928 that's basically tearing apart the British upper class. After Oxford kicks him out, Paul ends up teaching at this completely dysfunctional school, and his life just keeps spiraling into more and more ridiculous situations. The show has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the cast is loaded with people you'll recognize. But what makes it work is how insane all these characters are. They're so over the top that you're never quite sure if you're supposed to be laughing or horrified, and I think that's the point. Some people say a novel from 1928 about British elitism isn't relevant anymore. Other people say it's absolutely still relevant. Honestly, I think it works because these characters are so absurd they could exist in any era. Paul just keeps getting screwed over, and watching it all unfold is kind of fun, even though none of it is remotely realistic. "1998" adapted from this Deirdre Purcell novel, set in the 1930s in Ireland. A young woman has a fling with an actor, gets pregnant, and to avoid the scandal, she marries a much older, boring guy she doesn't love. People compare it to Pride and Prejudice sometimes, which I get, but it's doing its own thing. A big reason to watch is you get a very young Colin Farrell before he was famous. But Elizabeth Dermot Walsh carries the show, and Liam Cunningham is great here, the way he acts with just his face. The landscape in this thing is brutal. Bleak, isolated, and you can feel how trapped she is. Not just stuck in a bad marriage, stuck in this place where the community controls everything about your life. The land itself feels like a character. Some of the character development gets a little convenient, like people change in ways that feel maybe too easy for the plot. But the core of it works. The kids are well acted, which is rare, and the pacing never drags. Andrea Levy wrote this novel that got shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. BBC turned it into 3 episodes about slavery in Jamaica right before abolition. The main character's name is July. When July's 8 years old, the plantation owner's sister, Caroline, takes her away to be trained as a lady's maid. Haley Atwell plays Caroline, and she's walking this tightrope the entire time. Caroline's a monster, but Atwell doesn't turn her into some over-the-top villain. She keeps her real, which makes it worse somehow. You believe this woman could actually exist. July grows up learning how to survive under Caroline, makes whatever life she can in an impossible situation. Then the Christmas rebellion happens and everything falls apart. What's impressive is the show never feels like it's lecturing you. It's dealing with slavery, which is heavy as hell, but it trusts you to understand what's happening without spelling everything out. It's smart, it's emotional, but it's not preachy. That balance is hard to pull off. It still holds 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. They shot it on location, the costumes are good, the cinematography's strong. Is every historical detail perfect? Probably not. But neither is Downton Abbey, and nobody complains about that. This one is pure comfort television. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which almost never happens. It's based on Elizabeth Gaskell's novellas, set in this English village in the 1840s. Judi Dench is in it, and so is Eileen Atkins, Imelda Staunton, basically every great British actress you can think of. The railway's coming to town, and the women who run the village through gossip and social rules are trying to keep everything the same. The women at the center of this are fantastic. Eileen Atkins plays this elderly woman who decides what's proper for the whole village. She's severe but not heartless. Judi Dench is her sister, warmer, a bit scattered, but you love her immediately. Imelda Staunton's character is basically how all the gossip spreads in town. Julia McKenzie plays a widow who's sweet but can't make a decision to save her life. And Barbara Flynn's got money and makes sure everyone knows it. You end up caring about all of them. That's the trick of Cranford. It's gentle, it's a soap opera, but it's so well done and so warm that you don't want it to end. Michel Faber wrote a novel about Victorian prostitution in 2002, which gave him a massive advantage over actual Victorian writers. He didn't have to hide anything. He could write frankly about sex and violence and all the things Victorians kept under wraps. The story follows Sugar, a prostitute who's also self-educated and well-read. And when she meets William Rackham, this guy failing at his father's business and trapped in a miserable marriage, they actually connect intellectually. BBC cast Romola Garai as Sugar, and she's always been excellent in everything she does. But the more interesting casting was Chris O'Dowd as Rackham. Up to that point, O'Dowd had only done comedies, and suddenly here he is playing this darker, more complicated character. He handled it beautifully. The show runs 4 episodes and watches these 2 people become increasingly obsessed with each other. Sugar starts getting involved in Rackham's business decisions. He starts getting possessive and jealous, and the whole thing becomes more complicated and unhealthy. The Hanging Gale is about the Irish potato famine in 1846. It follows 4 brothers trying to save their farm while half the country's population either dies or flees. The easy version of this story would be English villains versus Irish victims, but the show's smarter than that. They cast Michael Kitchen as the land agent, and instead of making him a straightforward monster, they made him human. He has to evict starving families from their land because that's his job. He knows it's destroying lives, he's clearly uncomfortable with it, but the system doesn't care about his conscience. This came out in 1995, and it's a heavy watch. If you're looking for something uplifting or hopeful, this isn't it. But it's an intelligent examination of how systemic failure destroys communities when the people running the system either don't care or feel powerless to change it. Ernest Shackleton took an expedition to Antarctica in 1914. The ship got crushed by ice, and everyone on that expedition should have died. Instead, Shackleton managed to keep every single person alive through conditions that should have been impossible to survive. Kenneth Branagh plays Shackleton. which is one of those casting choices that just makes immediate sense. You need an actor with enough presence and charisma to make you believe someone could actually hold a crew together through that kind of ordeal, and Branagh has that. The show got 7 Emmy nominations, 6 BAFTA nominations, and a Golden Globe nomination. More than 20 years later, it's still sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Crimson Field had 1 season, 6 episodes, and the frustrating thing is it was finally hitting its stride when BBC canceled it. The finale was the strongest episode of the series. Everything clicked, the characters worked, the storylines paid off, and then that was it. Sarah Phelps wrote this drama about nurses at a French field hospital during the First World War. She gave equal weight to the nurses' experiences and the soldiers they were treating. The show got the period authenticity right. People acted like they were from 1914 rather than modern actors in costumes, and the props and uniforms started out new and clean and gradually got worn down as the war dragged on. But the ratings weren't there, and BBC had budget concerns for other projects, so they pulled the plug. Phelps revealed later she'd planned 4 more seasons. The finale ended on a cliffhanger for the main character, and that's where it stops.